Welcome, Irish fans, to this week's edition of the Jack Swarbrick Show. We are coming to you this week from the new home team interview press room inside Notre Dame Stadium. On this week's show, we will chat with legendary Notre Dame soccer coach Bobby Clark, Notre Dame men's soccer goalkeeper and captain Chris Hubbard, and senior associate athletics director for media and brand Rob Kelly. But first, to get things started, here are your hosts, Notre Dame Vice President and Director of Athletics Jack Swarbrick, and Notre Dame football offensive lineman and the leader of Wapu Nation, Sam Bush.
Sam, it just gets better every week. We got a legendary European goalie, maybe the best ever in Europe.
Maybe the best ever accent I've ever heard. In my
absolutely,
life too.
Absolutely. We got a legendary Notre Dame goalie, current goalie. Chris Hubbard, who's doing such a great job for us. We got Rob Kelly, who's going to talk all things media with us. And we got the thing we've been teasing the audience about all year. When we get to the end of the show, we're going to really expand our repertoire. We're going to turn from just interview to variety show.
Uncharted waters, uncharted territory.
We got everybody to hang on for that.
Yeah. Bear with us, viewers. I promise it'll be, and listeners, excuse me, it'll be worth it.
It'll be worth it. Well, coming off a big week at BC, always good to win the Holy War. And give me your impressions of the game.
You know, obviously tremendously proud of my team, the way that they went out there and fought. First half didn't go the way that we wanted it to go, but just a testament to the grit and to the tenacity that this team has, that they came out and were able to just keep consistently going back at it every play and taking that mindset one play at a time, next play. It was a lot of fun to watch because I know what those guys put in every day, every week, every month, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, 515 yards rushing. Your brethren really led the charge there. I thought the offensive line performance in the second half was just dominating.
It was great. And obviously those guys aren't the kind of guys who like accolades put on them. It's kind of the same mentality. Coach Heastan preaches being the same person every day in the locker room, out on the field, wherever you're at. And that's just coming in, going to work, doing what you need to get done, and walking out. So that was just the way that they ended up doing it on Saturday. It was rushing for over 500. But it's more the same this week. It's been more the same in the weeks prior. So it was really great for it to turn out that way. But, we'll attack next week the same way.
Well, and of course, it's lining up for the next block is a little more fun when the guys who are running behind you are racking up 200-yard games. Great performance by all the running backs and Brandon.
Absolutely, and we love Josh. I'm a huge Josh Adams proponent, but to see Brandon come out and make plays on the ground the way that he did. We all know that he can do it in the air. He's just that kind of guy. But this is the first game that I've really seen him kind of take control of a game with his feet. And it was a lot of fun to watch him have as much fun as he did out on the field.
And maybe the key momentum points in the game were defensively. So there was a huge fourth down stop. Big stop when we turned the ball over at the start of the second half. We a lot of enthusiasm in the locker room. We go back out and you just have a mishap, and the defense comes right in and does its job. Those are big momentum swings in a game.
Absolutely, and those are what we like to call like game-changing plays, and that happens a lot. That's more applicable to the special teams, but it's the same type of mindset in that our defense knows, okay, hey, maybe our offense hasn't got it going on. We're going to go out on the field. We've got you guys this time. We know that you're going to get it in gear. And it's the same thing, same mindset the offense has. If the defense is struggling a little bit, hey, guys, we're going to go out there. We're going to put this one on our back. We'll get it done for you guys. So it's really just a testament to the chemistry that our team has for us to go out, have not a great offensive possession, and for our defense just to come out and really solidify their trust in the offense and, their love of this team to go out and perform like that.
Out of the frying pan into the fire, as they say, up to East Lansing this week for what it promises to be a very physical, sort of Georgia-like physical game. How's the practice going this week?
It's been a physical week of practice, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Really proud of the way the scout offenses have been playing. Shout out to my boys at Wapu. But, we've come out. It's been hotter than it has been since we've gotten back to campus, so we've had to deal with that. That's just that's all plays to the mental side of the game. So everything that we're doing right now is in order to help us win against Michigan State. And it's been an awesome week of practice. We had an awesome gritty Wednesday today, and I'm really excited to watch us go out there and play on Saturday.
Well, we're all excited to watch it. Really looking forward to the weekend. Let's take a break, and we'll bring Mr. Kelly on to join us.
Sounds good.
We represent the greatest university in the world. Let's carry that pride tonight onto this field, and let's play for Notre Dame, and let's play for Our Lady. That's how we're playing today. I don't know what next week holds or the week after or 3 weeks down the road, but tonight, that's how we're playing this football game.
And caught beautifully.
What a play!
Touchdown, Notre Dame! The Irish find a way!
Our first guests on this week's Jack Swarbrick Show come to us from the #1 ranked and undefeated Notre Dame men's soccer team. Legendary head coach Bobby Clark and the man who plays the same position his head coach played, goalkeeper and captain Chris Hubbard. This week's victory over Bowling Green improved Notre Dame's record to 6-0 in the season and solidified the #1 ranking the Irish were elevated to in this week's United Soccer Coaches Poll. Coach Clark, of course, guided the Irish to the 2013 National Championship and 15 NCAA appearances in his first 16 seasons at Notre Dame. He is also a legend in his native Scotland and was a member of the 1978 Scottish national team that advanced to the World Cup finals in Argentina. Chris Hubbard is one of the best goalkeepers in the history of the Notre Dame men's soccer program. The graduate student from Louisville, Kentucky is off to a terrific start this season, sporting a minuscule 0.49 goals against average, including 3 shutouts to give him 20 for his career. Off the field, Hubbard is enrolled in graduate school after earning his undergraduate degree in accountancy from the Mendoza College of Business. Clearly, there is a lot for Jack to talk about with both of these gentlemen on this week's show.
Guys, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Coach, do you have a vote in the coaches poll?
No, I don't. I did that many years ago when I was at Dartmouth, and then I thought I better get out. So I haven't done that for a long while.
So it's an untainted, impartial vote for Notre Dame as #1. That's congratulations.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really mean very much at this stage. We were here last year exactly the same time, and it kind of petered out. So I think the guys, they know they've been here, and they know they've got to. It's how we finish the season is really important. So I think that's. We never talk about it. I don't think I've never ever mentioned rankings in the locker room. I think you would agree with that, Chris. And the boys never talk about it.
Yeah, you always say the rank that matters is the one at the end of the season. And I think we all are on the same page with that.
Absolutely.
It's really just a target in your back at this stage. So everybody gets very excited to play. But playing for Notre Dame, we have that target in our back anyway, so I think we're pretty good with that one.
Well, and it gives us to activate all the traditions. We get to fly the #1 flag and light the #1 sign. And so thanks for all of that. Chris, there's an obvious question for you. I'm always fascinated with athletes who play for a coach who was really good at the position they play. So, our point guards that have to play for Muffet McGraw in basketball, right? There's a whole dynamic there. You're playing. Jack called him legendary in the introduction, which of course is accurate. But you're playing for a guy who was such a phenomenal goalkeeper. What's that dynamic like?
It's actually I have a funny story about when he was recruiting me. It was during when I was playing for my high school team. I had a little bit of a shutout streak going. I had 8 or 9 games or something like that, and he was like, "Oh, cool! I had a shutout streak once," and he showed me that how he held the record in Europe for the longest shutout streak across all major competitions. I was like, "Oh, okay, why do I even mention that now?" I mean, but it's good because he understands the position really well, and he understands where I come from, and he understands the role I need to play. It also means I can't get away with anything because he knows when I should have done something correctly if I mess up. So,
Bobby, what makes a great goalkeeper?
I think in Chris's case, I think one of the reasons is Vern Gingrich, our volunteer goalkeeper coach, and he must get a lot of credit here because Vern he's there every day. Everything's prepared. He's got all the cones out. I've never known anyone who's more prepared than Vern. And even last night, he gives them I get the report as well. After every game, you get a report on how the goalkeeper did. I think, what were you last night? Was it in 88? I was at 100?
87.
87. He's had a lot of hundreds.
I've had,
But he caught you because he puts if you ever look, he puts a camera behind the goals. and every little bit is one of these cameras that just focuses on the goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
So last night he had you, I think, for bouncing.
Yeah.
And you know, when you bounce a little bit, he was off the ground when the guy hit it, and he had to wait till he came down before
Right.
he wasn't quite set. So Vern doesn't let you off with anything either,
No.
and we're very lucky to have Vern. I think this is his 10th season with me, and I think he's one of the reasons the goalkeepers are so well prepared. And but what makes a good goalkeeper? I think the first time I saw Chris, it was down at the Disney tournament between Christmas and New Year, and I went along to see him, and I think you let the ball through your legs in the net. But, you know, I continued to watch him, and I thought it was how he handled himself after, because he knew I was there. He made a really goof, you know. It was a real goof.
Do you remember this, Chris?
I do. I remember it so clearly, because I remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh, I can cross Notre Dame off my list.
But it was how he handled himself after that. I loved it, because I think a goalkeeper, but any good player in any position has presence, and I always look for people that have presence, and I thought you maybe have thought that, but you didn't give that impression. You came for everything. You looked very calm for the rest of the game, and I said, I really like this young man. I said, I love the way when you made a big error, it didn't affect you. At least you didn't let it look as though it affected you. And I thought that was a plus. You didn't realize, but making a mistake was a plus. But I think that presence is key for a goalkeeper, because when Chris is playing, it gives the team in front of him so much confidence, and you've just always got, because you're going to make mistakes, a goalkeeper, and the trouble is when you make a mistake, it's usually rather costly, so but you've got. I always, when I made my share of mistakes as well, but whenever I made a mistake, I would usually, the next time, right after I would start talking to the team in a very confident manner, so that they never thought I was feeling insecure in any way, and I immediately try to put that calmness through your defence, and that's what Chris does. He does a great job with that.
I didn't notice last night, and I was watching the game. Did you get the ball out of the goal when it went in? Some goalies won't do that, right?
I did.
They just refuse to acknowledge it's behind them.
Yeah, I've definitely had points in my career just like I just don't want to deal with that. But I think at the point in the game, we just needed to, forget about it, move on, and push for the, start attacking and get the second goal.
Speaking of confidence, there's so much quarterbacking that goes on from your position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have the knowledge that most American males of my generation have of soccer, right, which is very limited. So what are you seeing? What are you telling your teammates? What's going on with that whole dynamic?
So my major communication piece is to instruct the back four. And another captain who is in front of me, left center back, is Habrowski, and he mostly controls the four midfielders in front of him. But essentially, I'm just keeping the back four alert of forwards in and around their space, and whether or not they need to drop, whether or not they need to step, whether they need to tuck in, and just keeping them constantly aware of the stuff that they can't always see. That's, I think, my major communication, and then organization as well. When it comes to corner kicks or free kicks or set pieces, we've denoted it's my responsibility to take the lead to make sure everyone is in the right spot.
How much time do you spend as a goalie preparing for the other team's set pieces?
We spend a good amount of time going through it. Generally, boss will call in myself, a few of the center backs, and other defenders, and we'll go over set pieces for a while before we even bring it to the full team locker, and then we'll go over it some more. And then before the game starts, we always have all their main targets and who takes the corner, who takes the free kicks, and I always make sure I memorize the numbers and stuff to make sure I can call out who we need marked up accurately and stuff like that.
I mean, Bowling Green was a team who actually had quite a lot of interesting set pieces, and I think we did spend quite a little bit of time. Now we do that. I mean, we'll sit down. The coaches will break them all down first of all, and then I like to get the captains in and the people involved, because I like to get their opinions, because if they've got to be comfortable with it.
Sure.
But you've got to kind of lead them a little bit, but at the same time you want it. I always feel if it comes from them, they'll remember it as well.
Yeah.
If we just give them it, then it's a lot better if you guys, and you guys, that they're very good because you're teaching them all to think all the time, and I think that's the key, because they make the decisions, because they've got to make the decisions in the field. I'm not going to be starting shouting out number 42, number do this, or they've got to understand it. And then you give leaders. You always say, Chris is one of the leaders at the back. Habrowski is the other one. These are the two that will mainly look after the set pieces. And for us, it would be Matt. Matt's a very good leader and organizer, Matt Habrowski.
Right.
And Jeff Farina has taken over that role very well as well. So, but everybody's got to be a leader at some time, and but you really want the main men, and Chris is certainly one of them.
Well, since I've already demonstrated my lack of sophistication in soccer,
you've done well.
I ought to continue here. I shouldn't stop now. So you've made a save. You've got the ball. What the decisions you're then making, right? I mean, where to punt it. Sometimes it's a pass. How's that dynamic work?
Are you getting to his bad punt yesterday in the game?
No. I wasn't bringing that up.
As soon as Casper pulled that up in film, I may have whispered a curse to him. But for me, the first thing I look to is look up to John Gallagher and see he's got a tremendous amount of speed. And if I can spring him in a counterattack, that's like the first thing I look for. But it also depends on where we are in the game. If we're up and it's late in the game, I'm going to take my sweet time getting the ball out of my hands. And mostly where I put it, it depends on where we think we have the best matchup for our big hold-up guy, Jeff Farina, to win the first header. So, for example, yesterday it was like the left side. Normally I like to kick off the right. It's just I feel more comfortable. But they had, a very small center back. So so we were kicking to him to just exploit their weaknesses. So it's essentially where we think we have the best matchups. That's where
there's a lot of that determined before the game.
Yeah, we normally sit through and the coaches will put like the formation and the starting 11 for the other team, or what they think will be the starting 11. They go through each player's personalities, their size, their strengths, their weaknesses, and generally Jeff will feel it out too throughout the game, and he'll decide which way we kick to.
Coach, obviously off to a great start. Are you far enough into the season to know the personality of this team?
You won't know till we haven't really hit a bump in the road yet. And the old thing is that, what's that bump going to do? Is it, I think, is it going to trip you up, or is it going to lead you on? Are you going to jump over it? So I think that'll, and that's going to come sometime along the line, and it's how we handle it. I mean, last year we were a little unlucky. I think we went down to Louisville, and we lost Jeff Farina, and we lost, I think, Thomas Hewland in that game. But Jeff Farina, we lost two key players in the same game, and Jeff, although he came back with a brace, he wasn't really right at the end of the year, and that was a big loss at that time. And Thomas was the same, but you're going to have to handle when injuries as well. I mean, it's one of these things. You got to if you're going to be a team that's going to be successful. The team that won the NCAA's. I mean, we lost Patrick Hodan, and we lost Nick Beasler in the same game. We lost Nick, who was one of our key central midfielder. We lost him for about 8 games, and we still managed to go and win the league. And other people stepped up. So there's a lot of things ahead of us, but that's the exciting thing about playing a season, because it's a lot of different stories and side plots that are going to hit us along the way, and it's how we handle them. And as I say, I don't know that yet. I think we've had very good leadership from this group of captains, from John, Matt, that's John Gallagher, Matt Habrowski, and of course Chris. They've not done a tremendous job, and all the boys have bought in very well. But the other hard thing is keeping the whole squad involved. How do we do that? Because, because the person who's the last player in your roster is every bit as important, believe it or not, as if you're All-American, because they hold the whole thing together. So, you know, there's a lot. I'll tell you in December, Jack. That's my. But we're working at it every day. I always say it's like a good marriage. You know, you think you've got it, but you have to work at it every single day, and that's exactly what we're
That's
doing.
what Bet told me. He has to work at it every single day.
That's it.
Chris, you play in what is unquestionably the toughest soccer conference in the country. What's that like, having sort of every game be as titanic as these are?
It was when I first started, really playing significant minutes. It was kind of a culture shock because back when you play in high school and club, you play a tough team, every other week, and you get a kind of a lighter game where you could relax and lay back. But this time now you're always playing a tough team. Even we're not in the ACC, even our out of conference schedule is that there's no off games, and it's just I've actually really enjoyed it because it makes you be focused all the time. You have to be on top of your game, no matter what the occasion. And I think that's really actually helped me as a player, and I think it's helped our team mature and grow over the years.
You got some tough matches coming up in the coming week, right?
Yep. Every game is tough. I think that's the hardest game is if our guys go out and think it's going to be an easy game. That's a really difficult because every team that's going to play Notre Dame is going to come out ready to play. This is one of the highlights of their year. So especially if you play what's a perceived easier team, and there's no easy teams, believe you me. So I always just look for the best teams. I've always done that everywhere I've been. I mean, when I always say when I came here, we weren't playing Indiana,
right?
And I couldn't believe that Notre Dame wasn't playing Indiana, because Indiana is always one of the best teams in the country. They're in your state. The first phone call was to Jerry Yeagley. Why are we not playing you? And what about getting in the tournament? And I did exactly the same at Stanford. When I went to Stanford, we weren't playing Santa Clara, and Santa Clara, that team, were one of the best teams in the country. And again, my first call was to them and say, can we get on the schedule? And I mean, this year we've got a terrific schedule. It's hard. It's going to be hard. And could we go through the season unbeaten? No, it would be that's a tall ask. Yeah. But the one thing is, if we want to win enough games to make the tournament, and we know we'll be prepared, we can play anyone in the country. And the ACC does that as well. So
yeah.
They're great games, and this year, obviously Indiana speaks for itself. I think they're up there in the rankings somewhere beside ourselves. But then you've got Michigan State are right up. I think they're like 7-0, I think, at the moment. Michigan are doing superbly well. We play Akron. You take it. Then we never beat Northwestern for some reason, so I don't know. It doesn't matter how they are doing. We never do well. Somehow they have our number. So we've got a lot of tests along the road here.
To sort of counteract my lack of sophistication, I'm a big enough fan. I watched IU play Michigan on TV the other night.
Yeah, so did I.
I'm just trying to get the scouting in. That's all.
So we'll come and ask you. You can come to the.
Hey, do you want to run the film session?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'd be real helpful to you guys.
No, the guys that run I always, BJ, what they do, Coach Craig, he takes one team, and then the next game, already you've got Coach Casper, he's doing the other game, and they do a fantastic job. Both of them are fantastic at pulling out the bits and pieces, and then I look at all the games. Then we sit down in the office and go over it, but I can't work the computer with all the stuff. But I sit and put in my piece all the time.
Some things are generational.
Yes.
Nobody else could thread the film. You could probably do that.
I
right?
could thread exactly. I go back there, but they do a phenomenal job breaking down the other teams.
Chris, of the 22 head coaches I work with, the boss is probably the calmest in-game coach.
Yeah.
There got to be some moments, though, right? Can you share one of those moments with us where because everyone sees him as so cool and calm and collected.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There aren't many moments, but when there are, it kind of takes everyone by surprise. There was a few years ago, I guess, or it was 2 years ago. It was Max Lackowacki's It was Max Lockwood's 5th year. We were playing Butler in preseason. I remember this. It wasn't even a real regular season game. One of the few times I remember him actually like breaking his counter meter. We were playing Butler, and we were up a goal. It was the last about 15 minutes, and we couldn't connect a pass to save our lives. We were just like, we were getting it and just booting it down the field and just getting ready to defend again. I remember boss like is connect, come on, can we connect? He just keeps yelling, and then like he one more time just so loud, and then Max turns to him and goes, "No, we can't." So we just continue to just kick the ball down the field and just hunker down and defend.
We were terrible. We won the game, but we were
so
terrible.
Bad. One of the worst games.
And I don't know why. I don't know if they all seemed tired. It was on that funny field that they had. It was a turf field, and it was a warm, sort of muggy night. It was pre-season, and maybe we had done too much the day before at practice because it was pre-season. I'd never had done as much, but they were just so flat. We were so flat the whole game. I was just angry. I was embarrassed for the way we were playing. It wasn't the score. We're winning. I get embarrassed because I always tell them that, the way they play, that they're our thumbprint. It doesn't matter what I say; it's how they play, and that you're and how you handle yourself. And we were just so flat. But Max must have get fed up with me.
Yeah. Max was always known
Max
for
is a character.
Yeah.
Max is very much great character.
Well, my boss moment is this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. Now I'm standing over by the bench. I'm usually on the other side of the field, but I was by the bench, and the officiating was just atrocious. I mean, it was just terrible. And Bobby gets up out of his chair, and he's sort of standing right on the sideline, and the official comes by, and he goes, That's completely unacceptable." And I thought, boy, you told him. A little different than what I hear from some of the other coaches.
There was one time in the locker room, he's like, leave the ref to me, but if you have to say something, say this. "Please, referee, for goodness sake, get control of the game." I was like, that'll
teach him.
That'll really get him. So, but the referees like coming to Notre Dame, and I think the big thing is they'll always give us an even go. I really do. They all love coming. They always like to talk, and I think I think they know. I mean, we were the only team in the country last year that had, I think, to get a certificate, you'd have under 10 yellow cards, and we were the only Division 1 team in the country that got it.
Wow.
I didn't tell the boys that because I don't think they would be happy with it. But the year we actually won the NCAA championship, we were under 10 cautions.
Wow.
And I always feel, I'm reading a book just now, Legacy, about the All Blacks, and they talk about the red head and the blue head,
right.
and I just say you've got to keep a blue head. Funny, their coach wrote to me this morning, the Bowling Green, and he said he really complimented the team on how they handled when they lost the goal. They didn't panic, they didn't squabble with one another, they just got on with their job, and eventually we just kept working away. Because we talked about what was be relentlessly patient. I put a slogan to every game, and I knew it was going to be one of these games that you couldn't lose your focus throughout the game. And we had to keep calm. And whenever you get all excited and start shouting and going crazy, if I do that, they're going to follow me.
Yeah.
And if you calm them down and you keep the blue head and keep thinking, then we usually come out okay.
Yeah.
It's the same when you score a goal. Everybody always jumps, and I never jump because I'm immediately thinking, what does that mean in the game?
Yeah.
What's the next step? And if you get too excited, that's when you often find you score a goal, you'll lose another one very quickly after it because your concentration, you're not concentrating in the game. I mean, it's one of Sir Alec Ferguson's 3 C's is concentration. Because if you're concentrating in the game, you're not, your mind's not in other things. You're not thinking of the result. You're just thinking about what you're doing. So,
well, gentlemen, this is a pleasure. It was great to spend time with you. This is always my best segment of the year when Bobby comes on. He always brings a blue head.
Oh, yeah.
So to both you guys, thanks so much. Best of luck the rest of the season. We'll be watching with great interest.
We'll do our best to see what we can take this all the way, but it's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. Well, we both know there's a lot of work to be done and that you will do your best. Thanks so much. We'll be back in a minute.
right circle. He scores! Drops it off to Evans, finds the trail. Bjork's got it, right circle. He scores!
Our next guest, Rob Kelly, was recently promoted to Notre Dame's Senior Associate Athletics Director for Media and Brand. One of his responsibilities is to oversee the operation of Fighting Irish Media, which produces this show and all the video you see on the video board during a game in Notre Dame Stadium. Previous to his new role, Rob served as Assistant Athletics Director of Ticketing and Technology for 4 years. Kelly earned both his Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering and a Master of Business Administration at the same time from Notre Dame in 2003. Kelly and his wife Star live in Mishawaka with their 5 children, and we appreciate Rob missing some family time tonight to visit with us here on the Jack Swarbrick Show.
Welcome. You know, Sam, that was a really impressive introduction, except when they gave him credit for producing this show.
I was going to say, like, those accolades might not go on long enough, to be honest with you.
Producing this show, he'll never get over. Rob, welcome. Great to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about Fighting Irish Media and ticketing.
Good. We have been on the show this year. We've been featuring different spots in this beautiful football complex. Today we're in the football media room where we do the post-game media and have some other media activities. Tell us a little bit about this space.
This space is an amazing new asset for us for a number of reasons. One, it's a dedicated space for the home team. In the past, we used to do both press conferences in the same space, and now we have this exclusively for our use here at Notre Dame. The backdrop behind us is actually a digital backdrop, so we can change it as needed, and it's sort of beautifully outfitted with these windows, so should we want to have an audience outside the room, we can pipe some sound outside and have an external audience, in addition to the 50, 60 or so media members that can be present inside the room. We also have a robotic camera that's present constantly, and a direct feed with fiber back to our control rooms so that we can host shows like this on demand.
That, of course, is just one feature of this. We are, for the first time, and we spent some time with Mike Bonner on an earlier show, of course, have the benefit of not just the video board, but the ribbon boards. What's your assessment of all of that been as the person who oversees it with our first couple of games?
Well, I find myself in this interesting position of being interviewed by my boss and being observed by my team that's producing the show. So I don't think there's much more of a microscope you could find yourself under in answering questions like this.
No pressure.
Right. But no, I think I've had the benefit of seeing some of the fan surveys, and it's amazing to see the reaction that our fans have had to the video board and the ribbon boards. The reaction in stadium is palpable. The reaction after the game is sort of echoing after the actual game itself. And the impact, I think, is undeniable. There have been some penalties on the opposing team and some opportunities to review questionable plays that certainly would have not happened should we not have had the video board in prior years. I'd also say that there's a strategic advantage to the home team, whether it's pumping up the home crowd or our use of the video board to give the home team a little home cooking, as they say.
Now, this video board and these ribbon boards kind of being your baby, what would you say is the most exciting aspect for you when you see it, full regalia going full bore on Saturdays?
For me, it's the hype videos that get the fan base ready for the introduction of the team and for the half and the big moments that come during the game. But also, I think it's the distinctiveness for certain segments that you can only do at places like Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Whether that's the look into the team prayer pregame or the opportunity to inform the fan base of the opportunity to attend Mass after the game, as presented by one of our Holy Cross priests. These are things that you'll only find at Notre Dame, and we do them so well as presented through the video board.
I frankly thought the video of Sam getting the sidelines hugged against Georgia.
I knew that was coming up. I was just
game.
waiting.
That was spectacular.
I actually had no idea we did a team prayer look-in. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, we actually have it on the board when we're in there praying.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great moment. You work now in the most dynamic, change-filled industry in the world. Changes daily. I just saw a great geo map in Wired magazine of all of the people who have, all of the companies have some role in over-the-top delivery. It was like mind-boggling. It was so many different companies. Given all of that, what are your targets? What are you trying to hit as you lead this enterprise?
Wow, great question, and a daunting one for somebody who's been in the role for less than 3 months, really thinking about this. Right now, my biggest challenge is just figuring out what cable package to get in my house that I just moved into. So I'm hoping that gives me a little bit of insight into what over-the-top even means for a homeowner.
My parents use DirecTV, just FYI. I know a guy.
Perfect. We're obviously experimenting with many different forms of partnerships. NBC being, the foremost in our portfolio, bringing the Notre Dame home football game experience to your television set in millions of homes. And that partnership, we've actually experimented with things like virtual reality, and we're talking about augmented reality and other experiences that are going to bring new fans engaged into the Notre Dame football experience. But we've also experimented with the Showtime series 2 years ago and the Bleacher Report partnership a year ago. And these partnerships have given us an opportunity to reach out to a different demographic, expose ourselves to a different segment of the college football audience. And we think that there are going to be increasing numbers of ways, to Jack's point, for us to reach out to different customers. WatchND has been the platform that we've traditionally streamed our digital content through. With the advent of the ACC network that's coming in 2019 in a linear form, and its existence currently in a digital format, is really giving us a broader extension outside of football that'll reach millions of homes through our conference affiliation and the opportunity to push other events, right, that might be of interest.
One of your other job titles is that you're really involved in the whole branding of Notre Dame and the whole process of that. So coming into this, obviously the brand of Notre Dame is one that's recognized globally at just a moment's notice. Everybody sees the block ND and you know exactly what you're talking about. What's it like kind of stepping into that and trying to really uphold that Notre Dame brand?
It's a privilege and a responsibility, in short. So my background at Notre Dame has been a little over 11 years. And when I came back from industry, I came into the procurement office here at the university. And that was really where I got my first taste of the impact of the brand. So specifically, it's amazing the discount or the premium in some cases that the university gets in its contracts for being Notre Dame. What many suppliers would consider a portfolio account, an account that they want to put on all their marketing materials to present to other future clients. And I see that in an even greater sense at Notre Dame, whether it was my work in the ticket office and the aura that surrounds the access to Notre Dame football tickets and the brand that carries, to the power of the monogram and what that means when somebody sees it on your clothing, walking through an airport, and somebody yelling "Go Irish" at you from across the hallway. That somebody you have it likely is. It's just you every time. But those are super powerful moments, and they remind you of the responsibility that you have to the brand, and the great privilege that it is to work with it.
Rob, you also, before you moved into this position, you had responsibility for ticketing, and you were involved in helping address the outcome of the Georgia game. Our fans were obviously very concerned with the number of Georgia fans that found their way into the stadium. Why don't you sort of give us the takeaways we should know from that experience from your perspective?
Right. So before I go directly into that, I'd like to tell people that I've gone from one lightning rod to another, from ticketing to video boards. So I think I cover the full gamut of things that Notre Dame fans can be upset about. Yeah. But no, we we were very thoughtful about many of the ticketing changes that we made in the last 4 years, and one of those was to actually open up opportunities for our fans to engage in activities that they hadn't been able to previously. And so through a partnership with Vivid Seats, a secondary marketplace, we created the Notre Dame Ticket Exchange powered by Vivid Seats. And this gave many Notre Dame fans the opportunity to sell or buy tickets that they might not otherwise have access to or that they might not have a use for. And the reality of the dynamic there is that the demand for Notre Dame football tickets for the Georgia game was so high that those sales, and this is hard to prove, so I'm hoping everyone will take my word for it, that Georgia fans were going to find access to tickets regardless of the existence of our partnership with the marketplace. It happened in 2001 with Nebraska, when there was no secondary marketplace that was readily available. It certainly happens at any large game that we have, whether it's Michigan or Texas. We even saw it with Virginia Tech fans who travel very well late in the season. And, you know, when you combine things like there was an Atlanta Falcons game in Chicago the Sunday after the game. We had a homestand for the Chicago Cubs. Many residents of the state of Georgia saw this as an opportunity to have a fantastic sports weekend and check off one of their bucket list items and go into the University of Notre Dame and visiting Notre Dame Stadium. So it was a difficult thing to see in the stadium on game day. Impressive if you're a Georgia fan. But it's also something that's led us to have a really robust internal conversation about how we can better influence the decisions that Notre Dame fans make.
Yeah, I think we are having that discussion internally about what we can do appropriately, consistent with the experience we want our fans to have and the experience we want our team to have. But I do think it's so important to keep in mind this was a measure of the power of Notre Dame in the sense that you had on sale at the same time Notre Dame, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Ohio State. And none of those games were within 50% of the value that Notre Dame, Georgia was trading. And, you know, as I saw that price go up and up and up, it was clear to me the dynamic was people were going to keep driving it up till someone would sell. And as frustrating as that can be when the net result is so many Georgia fans here, and again, we're going to look for ways to try and maybe get a little bit of a limiter on that, you got to step back and say, how cool is it that they want to do that, that it's such a priority to get to this place. And I must say, while it's cold comfort, the number of letters that I and Father John have received, and I'm sure you probably have too, since that game from people who came here. And the letters are all about the experience of being on campus and the people they met and how it was a bucket list, not just because they thought it would be a bucket list item, but because it was when they experienced one of the best experiences they've ever had in their life. So certainly we all understand the frustration, but there is that side to it.
Well, you know, just kind of going off that, a little story that I have. One of my best friends in the entire world from back home is actually a student down at Auburn University right now. And I told him, I'm like, hey, one thing I want from you, I want you to come watch me play one game at Notre Dame Stadium. And he's at an SEC school. He's in a fraternity. He's got the whole tailgating scene done right. I expect him to come up and be a little bored by what's going on in Notre Dame. But he came up, and by the end of the weekend, he looked at me. He said, this is the best weekend of my college experience. I got to walk around the University of Notre Dame campus. I got to see Touchdown Jesus, the Golden Dome, and I got to watch my best friend run out of the tunnel on a Saturday to play for the Fighting Irish. It doesn't get much better than that. And that just speaks to, you know, why we had so much red there. And like we going back to the brand of Notre Dame, that's just how powerful it is.
Undeniably, Notre Dame was on its best show for the Georgia weekend, and it's come through in many a letter that we've received, many a social post, many a blog post. I've found 2 or 3 a day since the game. And just as a side note, to reemphasize the amazing financial impetus that was at play in this dynamic, there was a really interesting little story. I can't remember where it was, but about a flight from Atlanta to South Bend in which they started to offer vouchers for people to stay behind because they had overbooked the flight, and they started at $2,200 and had to get to $4,000 before they could get a taker. Just amazing.
Yeah, that was a watching, because one of the passengers videoed that on their phone. You could definitely see some collusion going on among the crowd. It was like, all right, nobody's going to say anything. We got to get to 4. So that was pretty good.
Pump it up, baby. Pump it up, baby.
Yeah. Rob, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And I just want to say to our many listeners and video watchers, if you had any problems with your tickets as of 3 months ago, or there's any video content you don't like, it's Rob Kelly. Rob Kelly. Rob, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, guys.
We'll be back in a minute. Show. We had the coach and the goalie from the #1 soccer team in the land join us, and it's part of a fall sports season around here that's going really well. Fill us in on women's soccer.
Yeah, so women's soccer opened up ACC play last week against the 11th ranked Clemson Tigers. They went to Clemson and had an awesome upset victory, 4-2, led by Natalie Jacobs. She scored 4 overall points. She had 1 goal, 2 assists, and This is a lot of fun. It's a really awesome team to watch this year, a lot different than last year. Big emphasis on offense. I mean, this team, up to this point in the season, has already scored 20 goals offensively, whereas you compare that to last season's total goals, they only had 26. So they're on an awesome pace. And this is actually, of their last 4 games, this is the 3rd game in which they've scored 4 goals. So a lot of fun. Big exciting things happening for the women's soccer team, the Women Fighting Irish. They got a game this Thursday against Duke, Sunday against NC State, and then they're coming back next week and playing Wake Forest. So should be a great run of the next couple games, and I'm excited to see how they do.
A lot of skill on that team. It's great to see the offense coming together. They've been solid defensively all year, but the offense is really coming together.
Absolutely.
And speaking about great performances, volleyball moved to 10-1 this past week, beating number 23 Michigan State in the Shamrock Invitational, and then beating Southern Illinois and Central Michigan. All games were 3-0. I don't know if they say 3-0 in volleyball. Probably not.
It's definitely not a hat trick.
But it just continues a great run now for that 10-1 team. Sam Fry was the player of the week in the ACC, and she certainly deserved it. They move into ACC play Friday at Louisville in the ACC opener, then NC State, then Miami. But, boy, is that team playing well. So between the soccers and the volleyball, great start to the cross-country season. All is well here. And as promised, we're going to move to the variety portion of the show and say goodbye to our audience. Hope you'll join us next week as Sam the Man Bush plays us out.
Yeah, so this is a song by one of my favorite bands, Iration. This is called Fallen. We met at a concert, you were wearing Converse. I'm not good at playing it cool. I spent all my money, you said I was funny, then your friend get thrown in the pool. When we said goodbye, I know that I can't lie, thought I'd never see you again. That was my mistake, and now my heart is breaking. It's too hard to comprehend that I'm falling. Hoping that you feel this way too. Said I'm falling.
expert of illusion, I just get used to it. Thought I had it all worked out. Love was just a stage name, watch it as it became something I can't live without. Then to my surprise, you opened my eyes. I thought I was empty inside. Now every time you're near, stormy skies become clear. Now there's nowhere left to hide. That I'm falling, hoping that you feel this way too. Said I'm falling, sitting here waiting for you. I'm falling, hoping that you feel this way too. Said I'm falling, sitting here waiting for you.
And that's why we call them student athletes. We'll see you next week.